Yeah, you can smite really hard every time you use it. Boom! 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 Drums. Yeah, you can one-shot everything with the perfect magic missile setup. But where's the fun in that? Okay, there is actually a lot of fun in that. That's completely fair enough, and I completely understand that. But it's just that little bit better to be just as ridiculously brokenly powerful, but in a really unique way. A way that kind of strokes that itch. Don't stroke an itch. That's a weird image. So itchy, let me stroke it. In any case, the itch in question is theory crafting. Putting together the right combination of classes, subclasses, gear, skills to just make this perfect exodia of beautiful carnage that can deal death in not just the most potent of ways, but the most interesting too. So what I wanted to do now that Baldurs Gate 3 has, well, been out for a while, we're expecting patch 7 soon, which, let's be honest, new playthroughs all round! And I wanted to sit down and talk about my personal 5 favorite builds that I have come up with over its life cycle so far. I think they are really quite good, ranging from just, is this possible? Oh my god, it is! All the way to a one-man unstoppable immortal army that can walk solo through honor mode with your eyes closed. So, with that in mind then, let's begin. And yes, the honorable mentions to the 2 that I used at the start, the Super Smite Paladin and the Super Magic Missiles. They're both great in their own regard, but, you know, quite literally straightforward. So we will begin then with a little bit of Druid. And what exactly do I mean? Well, Druid and Wizard of all things. See, the goal here was to make the elemental myrmidon forms as good as they can be. And how do we do that? Well, the usual suspect of choose the lightning damage dealing form in the air, have wet enemies, so yeah, that's lots of damage, okay, but what can we do past that? Well, the attack stuns, and we can engineer it from the wizard level 1 dip to learn haste, a little bit of war cleric 2, to attack 8 times in a turn. Something tells me that this is a particularly decently alright, kinda good, pretty wonderful turn. Which not only means we get to smack 8 times for double meaty damage, we also get to slowly walk around the battlefield and stun every single enemy and keep them there in perpetuity. Oh, and we can cast the second elemental and have you as one and your AI companion doing the same thing simultaneously, which is just an absolute joy. I really loved this one, and I was so happy when it finally started to work, and it was one that really came along later in the game's initial surge, but it's one that I deeply still go back to and love because it really is just fun walking around and lightning flail slapping everyone. A common theme in the builds that I do is my litmus test is I need to be able to, you know, beat the game solo with the build. A party is just bonus, and this certainly is that. But this is just the beginning. Next up then, we're going to talk Ranger. Pretty much just Ranger, but with a little bit of that classic War Cleric bonus extra attacking going in for a good old-fashioned volley build. See, I always thought it was a shame that Gloomstalker got all the love, and good old-fashioned plain Hunter should get some too. And volley is a magical skill, and it should be as a reward for level 11. But the thing is, it counts as an attack. It is just an attack, mechanically. It also happens to be AoE. So you can volley as many times as you can attack, and anything that affects an attack, any modifiers, damage, effects, also affect volley. So the idea is born: stack as much extra damage to your attacks and therefore volley, while stacking as many extra attacks as possible, therefore extra volleys.
So I got asked what kind of bonus damage I would like to have on every attack, and I kind of just said, yes.
This is fun. And then you just get to click circles on the groups of enemies until they all die. It is simple, it is beautiful, and it's a lot of fun. Rainbow damage, endless volley, yeah. And by the way, all of these builds will be in the description down below if any take your fancy. Past this, then, we get to, what I consider to be the weakest build on this list in terms of raw power, but also the most creative, and indeed the build I am second most proud of. Incidentally, my third most proud and first most proud are coming up in the next two, but I mean, look. There really just isn't a better way to kill someone than breaking their spine with a thunder club. This build then wasn't even possible until a couple patches in that fixed a few of the key mechanics. For example, reverberation actually working. We take Punch Drunk Bastard, a ridiculously cool unique weapon that means when you are drunk, well, not only do you get advantage on attack rolls just full stop, you also do an AoE 1d4 Thunder Blast whenever you strike an enemy. So we engineer a situation where we're permanently drunk, but we don't get the negative effects of being drunk via equipment, so we get pure advantage and extra damage on every hit. We combo that with a barbarian doing barbarian things, like for example Tiger's Cleave, and then every person hit along the cleave explodes in thunder. We add in the reverberation stacks gear for even more explosions of thunder, also knocking people prone from the reverberation, and we just kind of run around a drunken, angry, unkillable barbarian hitting people with a drunken lightning explosion bat. It is beyond satisfying, and I absolutely adore it to its core, and is something that I would recommend anyone have a go at. You just get a nice supply of various alcohols to keep the drunk going, you get extended drunk duration from a necklace, and indeed you are just set at that point onwards. It's just so much fun. As is my next one, where we go back to the Ranger. Caw. I said that because it's based on a crow, but now I regret saying caw. This was my attempt to heal another oft underused subclass in, well, Beastmaster. Says a lot about Ranger, really, although Beastmaster got a bit more use, but it's also the fact that once you get to high enough level, your beasts that you summon, well, they get stronger, they evolve form, until eventually you get the ultimate Darkness Raven that has sick golden armor, but they get hidden passives, or extra little abilities, skills, or perks that you don't necessarily realize or the game even tells you about. For example then, the Raven, as part of its fly movement, which it can do a lot of because it's got a lot of movement per turn, every time it lands from flying, it summons a darkness cloud, which as we know, is quite ridiculous in Baldurs Gate 3. If you have an ability to just permanently see in darkness, which you can get from Warlock, you can get from an item, then you have your Raven. You use all of its movement to just hop around the battlefield, summoning endless cloud upon cloud, permanently darknessing everything. You can see fine, all of your enemies can't, ranged people can't attack you, anyone in melee is disadvantaged, and then on top of that, well, we have ourselves lightning arrow on top of wet enemies to just blast chain them down from the safety of our darkness home. It's such a fun way to actually express this subclass with what it does best, using your bestial pet to maximum advantage, but in a way that like the game, as I say, doesn't even tell you is possible. We use the self-hasting bow in Gone to Mail that we can get in Act 3, Legendary, and that gives us a self-haste on top of everything, and we just become an absolute menace inside our endless clouds. And because of the clouds, the Raven is really sturdy too, because no one can hit it either, and it can fly to safety and then come back in and then keep darknessing. In fact, the only thing that ever worked against this build is sometimes the game would just get confused and not be able to produce that many darkness clouds for me, which is rather hilarious. Yeah, this is really, really good. Not to mention we can wear heavy armor, so we have like 22 AC while doing this, so that disadvantaged attacks on us is really disadvantaged attacks on us. Basically, this is a very, very good time, and as I was saying with all of these, cannot recommend it enough. Finally, then, it would be remiss to do a little video like this without going over my magnum opus, the greatest build I ever came up with, and I still maintain, as much as I don't like saying this, because, you know, there's so many great builds out there by so many great creators, and I've been so impressed with everyone's ideas, but I really do think that this is in contention of top 3 builds, just full stop, ever, across all of Baldurs Gate, because it really is that good. You can be solo, you can be against any amount of enemies in any configuration, and you will take 0 damage ever, because you have to get hit for 40 plus damage to even take 1 point of damage, and then everyone that hits you takes a guaranteed near 100 damage. You encourage enemies to hit you by playing with certain mechanics, and you just become this unstoppable one-man reflect damage tank thanks to Abjuration Wizard comboed with a couple of other little things. It's hard to describe just how effective this is, and it comes online really early too and just keeps rolling, making it a candidate for a solo honor mode playthrough if you are, as they say, insane. But seriously, best of luck to you. We essentially then use the ability to generate as many stacks of Abjuration as possible, keeping our arcane barrier at maximum even regardless of spell slots. Then a little bit of a Cleric infusion gives us access to create water and indeed heavy armor, while also then we start as Sorcerer with Draconic White Dragon Bloodline to get Armour of Agathys, the star of the show. This 1/1 and then 10 in Abjuration Wizard means that we are now Agathied up at a level 6 spell slot, which is a lot of bonus health and therefore a lot of damage when it reflects, but we also get Flame Shield Cold Edition, which is another load of cold damage when we get hit. It's all doubled now thanks to the Create Water, and then we use Duelist Prerogative to compel duel, which makes people attack us, and there we are. We can also farm attacks of opportunity, and generally it's just kind of you go where you want and do what you want, because anyone who tries to stop you in any way just dies in the attempt, and it feels phenomenal. I cannot express enough how much of a god this build makes you, on top of having just all the good stuff of being these classes like haste and good old fireball, and generally speaking, yeah, things are very, very nice here. You can also deliberately just wear, like, no armor in order to attract attention, but we also stack all of the various armor and gear that lowers the amount of damage you take on top of the arcane ward stacks, which means even if we do take damage, we still only lose 1 stack. And even then, as I say, you have to take over 40 damage anyway. Basically, this build is him. Alright then, ladies and gentlemen, that's my 5 favourites for you, my 5 best builds of all time since release. I would love to know yours, and I would love to know any of these that you like the look of enough to maybe try, or if you already have, as I say, they're in the description. For now then, like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more, consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.